scare the hell out of you, wouldn't he? Got that musket.
Right. See, that's not really dressing up. He's security at the games.
Wow. Okay.
I was going to say, speaking of Thursday night, I think a game that's also interesting on Thursday night is Penn State versus Purdue. Just because James Franklin, he has to be feeling heat. He's had some really good records at Penn State, but the last 2 years he was sub 500 in the COVID year, and I believe they were 7-6 last year. So he has to be feeling pressure. And going against Purdue, Purdue is coming off a great year, and they still have a lot of talent. So again, it might be. I don't think he's on the hot seat like Frost, but still, like, he doesn't want to start off with an L. So, like, it's a pretty big game right off the jump for Penn State. So I'm kind of intrigued by that one.
So you think this could be Jeff Brom's year at Purdue? This could be a good year for Purdue, for Brom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think
his year to shine.
They were 9. I believe they were 9-4 last year.
Yeah. So, and they, like you said, they've got most everybody back, and they've got good defensive and offensive lines.
They lost some good players in the draft, but still, I think they lost. Karlaftis is with the Chiefs. So, yeah. but still, yeah, like what you're saying, Joe. But I still think they have a decent amount of talent. So, yeah, I'm not gonna say they're gonna compete for the Big Ten title, but
no.
They'll make some noise, I think, in the West, though. So
no, they'll do well. I also look forward to the Utah game. In that, I think looking at Utah's schedule, first of all, I think that the Pac-12 or Pac-4 or whatever the hell it ends up being here.
Pack of donuts, yeah.
I think they'll dominate this year, and I think they have an outside chance if everything goes to schedule of making the playoffs. They've got really announced a real good quarterback. Well, the Gators also have a good quarterback in Anthony Richardson too. But anyway, I think that game could be fun to watch as well. That's a good one. Smash mouth football with some finesse.
Yeah, and I guess for my games, I'm looking forward to that. I'll finish up with is actually, Lugs, you brought up is Georgia versus Oregon. Mainly because, just to see how Georgia reloaded from all the draft picks they lost, which I know they did. They're not a team that rebuilds. But also the coach of Oregon, he was the defensive coordinator, Dan Lanning, for Georgia. Just to see the master-pupil matchup is always kind of fun to see. And just to see how well he stacks up off the jump to Kirby Smart.
The master.
Yeah. I think Georgia's defense will chew up the duck. I'm sorry.
You think it's going to be a lot of duck feathers all over the place? Is that about it?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. All
right. What else on the college football front? Anything else on that?
Well, I was just going to say Alabama.
Yes, we forgot about
in typical Saban fashion, they're going to be playing the Little Sisters of the Poor again. They're playing Utah State. I think the total student body at Utah State is 50. And so...
and 38 are on the football team?
Alabama's favored by more than 40. That lets you know. I think I'd have to bet State covering that. I believe.
I'll take that to cover. Covered and smothered. Oh, wow. Okay. Want to talk a little NFL? You ready for that? All right.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald is seen swinging 2 helmets in a scrimmage with the Cincinnati Bengals. Fuzzy cell phone video, but it's very obvious what's going on. Fellas, what is happening with Aaron Donald? Why would a guy of his stature, Hall of Famer, future, do something like that?
Well, my first question is, in just normal practices among the teams themselves, there are always fights. Why would you put the 2 teams that were in the Super Bowl last year practicing together?
Good point.
You're just, it's going to happen. Now, Aaron Donald, yeah, you can't swing a helmet. Because he grabbed the guy's helmet. So the guy's helmetless, and he's going to pound him. So I just that's just crazy to me. Crazy. That's testosterone going amok. So
Well, the reason they scrimmage against each other is obviously Zach Taylor and Sean McVay are friends. So usually not always, but usually these we're practicing against a team before like a preseason game. It's two guys that either are friends or Belichick's was always funny. Belichick always for a time he always practiced teams he was worried about. And he wanted to get like 7 days of like intel on what they do. So he was really smart about it. But most of the time it's friends. In terms of why he did it, again, I think like with a lot of things that these practices against teams before the preseason games is a double-edged sword. I think you hear all the times during training camps the offense and defense of the same team get tired of going against each other. So it's good to go against another team. And it helps build kind of team because you're not going against yourself. So like it builds morale on a level, and also you get to it just changes something up for at least one of the weeks of like 4 to 5 of training camp to change it up, which is always good. But to be fair to your point, there's almost always a fight. Like there's always a fight if you're going on the same team, but it seems like it's exacerbated when you play against another team.
Especially former Super Bowl foes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like you knew it was going to happen.
And it's funny to me, and again, because I'm not gonna worry about it too much with Aaron Donald, but I do think it's funny that when you hear of like Myles Garrett, because obviously Myles Garrett had his incident with Mason Rudolph.
That's
The craziest thing about Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald is if you ever see these guys like be interviewed or people talk about them, they're both like real gentle souls. Like they are the epitome of like when they're on the field, a switch goes on, and then like when they leave the field, the switch is turned off. But it's because like again, I think Myles Garrett's into like writing poetry, and like Aaron Donald is just like super soft spoken and like a sweet guy. Even Ndamukong Suh is a sweet guy off the field, and it, like the man's name literally means House of Spears, but. But like he lives up to that name on the field. But I'm not too worried about it. It wasn't a good look, though. I will say that.
No, if somebody didn't have their phone going, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. You're right. Nothing's going to happen with that. Okay, let's talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. He will be a San Francisco 49er for the coming year. Surprised, Lugs, or not?
Kind of. I would have figured that they being the 49ers would have figured out a way to get him out of the building because I saw an interview with Trey Lance, and Trey Lance, they asked him about Jimmy, and he said, I've only seen him in the hallway in passing, that he's been in none of the meetings or anything. So obviously it would have been easier if he were out of the building. So I'm a little surprised by that. I'm not surprised that Garoppolo would take the deal. Garoppolo seems like a guy that, hey, he's getting a chunk of change here. I can hang out.
Clipboard.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm not getting the hell beat out of me, and I'm collecting a few million. I believe I could handle that. I tried to sign up for him. I just couldn't. You got to be able to jump from the floor onto a dining room table, and I never quite could get there. So anyway, I'm not particularly surprised. I'm just surprised that he's not playing somewhere else.
Well, T-Dog, the deal is about $6 million, I think, guaranteed for him, which is not a whole lot for a backup, but it's okay.
I mean, it's the craziest thing about it is Lugs kind of hinted at it. Like they clearly had intended for him not to be on the team because going back to what he said about Trey Lance, when they were on the field practicing, he was usually inside going over film, and when they were inside going over film, he was outside practicing. And obviously they have a large enough compound that if they're both outside practicing, he was on another field like throwing with extra people, I guess, involved with the team, maybe not coaching staff, maybe like a graduate assistants. I don't know what the equivalent is of for the professional, but like he was not with anybody on the team. It was just Jimmy Garoppolo throwing to people that were not players and were not,
Grant
coaches.
assistants, the film guy,
Yeah.
the video guy.
Like he was
Hey,
throwing to the
go
film
long.
guy. Yeah, but so they clearly I mean, I don't know. I think they'll be at least honest enough. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know if there is a fear that they've seen enough in Trey Lance that they're like, all right, this team is on the verge of the Super Bowl. I wish they were last year.
Yeah.
I mean, they were they were on the verge. So like,
Sure.
man, we can't make this.
They knocked the
this-
Packers out last year in Green Bay, remember?
Yeah, and it's painful to me. Clearly, they're like, we can't trust Nate Sudfeld to be the backup.
Man, that
IU, he got waived today.
Ooh, the
And,
IU, shoot.
Yeah, and,
Nate.
and they're keeping Brock Purdy, it seems like, from Iowa State. So, that one stings a little bit. But it's a very bizarre thing. And obviously, clearly, they want to keep him away from the Seahawks, it feels like. But this is the weird thing, and maybe I'm wrong on this. The funniest thing is, I think it's almost like when they use the term galaxy brain, I think they're outthinking themselves. I think Pete Carroll is actually legitimately, I'm not even saying, I know everyone thinks he's being wily like a fox, and obviously Pete Carroll's a smart guy, but like, I legitimately think he believes in Geno. I really do.
Somebody has to. Well, after all these years.
And also, if they don't do well, then they'll be in prime position to get like a good quarterback in this year's draft. Like, do you want Garoppolo for a year when you look at Seahawks roster?
Right.
What at best they'll be mediocre. Well, that takes you out of contention for a legitimate top quarterback, right? So why would they be willing to make that deal for Garoppolo? I don't know.
The only
That's
Geno's I like is Geno's Pizza Rolls. Remember those?
All right.
Oh, all right.
Okay, but
yeah.
you don't want to be, you don't care if they're friends or not. You just want to win. They could live in two different locker rooms. You don't care about that crap.
But
just win.
My prediction here is I don't think Trey Lance is the guy. I just don't.
So Jimmy's an insurance
I
policy.
think 4 or 5 games into this season,
Pull the plug.
you will see Garoppolo.
Mm.
I think you will. Because no matter what happens, Jimmy, I don't think will lose the support of all the players around him.
It's true.
And so that is a major thing. And obviously he knows the offense, and it's just a matter of, is he going to get hurt? I think for most people. So, but just one comment about Geno Smith. I think Geno Smith is perfect for Pete. I think he's perfect because he is a guy that won't try to push too much. He's got 2 really good receivers, and they've got a couple of decent running backs. The offensive line, maybe not so much. But I think Geno is the perfect place for him right now.
And they both like Wrigley Spearmint gum.
What
That's
more do you
right.
need?
Just to kind of piggyback off what Lug said, I will go as far as to say I'm not saying that Geno is going to be the comeback player of the year. I don't think he is, but I think he's going to be a solid quarterback for the Seahawks. I think he's been, he was put in. If you look at it, he was drafted into a poor situation with the Jets, and mainly he's been a backup the rest of his career. I'm not going to say he's going to become a Pro Bowler or anything, but I think he'll do a solid job. I will say the funniest thing is during training camp, they were holding off on naming the starter. And even the second game, it was supposed to be the quarterback from Missouri. Why am I blanking on his name? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Drew Lock.
Thank you, Drew Lock.
Drew Lock.
Drew Lock
Ned
was
Lock.
he did play in the third game. Drew Lock did play in the third game, and he played so poor that like pretty much after the game, Pete Carroll's like, "Yeah, Geno's our starter." He was so bad he didn't even wait like a week. He's just like, "I don't need to review the film. Geno's our starter."
Well, didn't Drew right out of the block throw an interception first play? I think.
Yeah.
But he did come back and throw a major sort of touchdown.
Yeah.
Oh,
But the Bears are undefeated in the preseason. That's all I care about because that's not how the season's going to go.
see, I'm surprised you boys weren't cock-a-doodle-doing because Justin Fields is the top-rated quarterback in preseason.
Oh,
what
yeah.
that means.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a lot. That's what that means.
The future looks bright. The future looks bright.
I got to say, Tyrod Taylor, again, gets whammied. I mean,